Is Cogman the Headmaster or the Aston Martin DB11? What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the Road to TF5. This is just web series we're talking about Transformers last night. This is episode number 140, and in this episode, it's all about Cogman. Who is Cogman? What is his character all about? And what is the significance of his presence in this story? We're going to talk about that in this episode. Now, the reason why Cogman is a character of interest is because recently, Michael Bay and, of course, the Transformers movie social media accounts released this character motion poster of 8 different characters, one of which was Cogman. And we got to see Cogman's, I guess, like portrait, upper chest up and face, of course. We got to see what he looks like for the very, very first time. And suddenly I'm intrigued. I think he's a very interesting and fascinating character, but I also think he's very, very mysterious because we only know so much about him. I mean, we can only know so much because we're only left with what kind of information is out there, which is not very much, but we can speculate. I mean, speculation is what the Road to TF5 is all about. It's fun to speculate, and it's fun to anticipate what is going to happen before the film comes out. I mean, we will finally know the truth when Transformers Last Night comes out in June. But for now, let's just talk about it. So, what do we know so far? Well, we know that Cogman is a new character that is being introduced for the very, very first time into the Transformers live-action universe. He was a character that was written specifically for this film. We've never seen him before in the past, like in the cartoons or the comics. So this is something very, very new. We also know that he's a silver Aston Martin DB11. We know that I guess he's an Autobot. I mean, he's a good guy, right? And also that he only appears in the UK filming scenes. So the Transformers Last Night filmed in America and also the UK as well as other parts of the world, but he never showed up. Like, the Aston Martin never showed up in America. He only showed up in the UK filming scenes. So that tells us something already. Also, we do know that Sir Anthony Hopkins and Cogman do have a relationship with each other. I mean, not a romantic relationship, but there's something going on between them, like a thing. Like a friendship, okay? They have some sort of friendship, some sort of understanding. And I remember seeing some scenes, like behind the scenes footage, where Sir Anthony Hopkins' character is riding Cogman. I mean, like he's inside Cogman. I mean, he's driving Cogman. He's driving him. That tells us something. That tells us that he either is like driving him as like a friend, or he's being captured. But I don't think he's being captured. It doesn't look like Anthony Hopkins' character is in distress or anything. But anyways, let's talk about that in this episode. And I think the best way to speculate and to really find out the most we can really find out is the best way to do that is really to go back in time to the very, very beginning of when these characters were even introduced during the filming of Transformers Last Night. So I think it goes back to summer of 2016 when they first announced Sir Anthony Hopkins being cast in Transformers Last Night. And that was a pretty big deal. I mean, you don't just cast someone like Sir Anthony Hopkins in any film. Like, you cast Sir Anthony Hopkins for a reason. There's a reason why you would want to add his character into the story, or add him as an actor into the story, because, like, well, first of all, he's an older gentleman, he's English, and this film is called Transformers The Last Knight, meaning that there are knights in this film, like medieval knights. So, and also, we also learned that, it deals with King Arthur lore, so his presence definitely has something to do with the Knights and the Knights of the Round Table. At least that's what I believe. But anyways, going back to the summer of 2016, we got to see that there was a plot leak on that was mentioned on joblo.com. And there was a lot of things that were mentioned, but something that really stood out was the introduction of new characters. I'm going to read you this paragraph right here from the plot leak, and it says, one such character is called the Creator, who is said to have ties to the origins of the Transformers. A Transformer with an English accent named Cogman, whose alt mode is an Aston Martin, will appear, as well as a Transformer named Squeaks, whose alt mode is a Vespa. So going back to Cogman, He's a Transformer with an English accent, and his alt mode is an Aston Martin. So, you know what? It's a plot leak, and we can't know at that time if it's true or false or something in between, but we do know that as the filming progressed, a lot of those things that were mentioned in the plot leak ended up being true. So it's starting to verify itself and feel more and more valid. So I decided to go with this. I decided to believe that this is true, or at least like it's like true, like to a certain point, but at least a lot of it has been quite valid. All right. So the next thing we got to see is finally, during the filming in UK, was the actual silver Aston Martin DB11. So there was filming in London, and then we got to see scenes with Cogman and Hot Rod. There was also scenes where Cogman was up at Bamber Castle with Hot Rod and the McLaren. Check out this wonderful photo where Bamber Castle is in the background. So there are a lot of scenes where Cogman shares with Hot Rod and the lady. At least that's what the crew calls the McLaren, the lady. And I like to refer to these characters as the English Autobots because they only appear in the UK scenes. They never appear in the American scenes. So once they get to the UK, that's when these characters are going to get introduced. Okay, there's other scenes which Cogman is involved in, such as ones with Bumblebee, and this was at Buckingham Palace. And there was a scene where the McLaren was involved in a car chase, which also involved these human antagonists who were driving Lexus SUVs, and Cogman was also involved in that because Cogman was also the driver for Sir Anthony Hopkins, as in Anthony Hopkins was in the vehicle of Cogman as well as in the McLaren. So that's a pretty big deal because now it feels like Cogman and the lady are working together, and they are working together with Sir Anthony Hopkins. I don't believe that these characters are capturing Sir Anthony Hopkins. I believe that they're working together. So that is very, very interesting. Now, there's also scenes where Cogman was seen in Oxford. It also shared scenes. Cogman also shared scenes with Hot Rod. So, like I said, they share a lot of scenes together. So they're working together. They have to be working together. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that Cogman is a bad guy. He can't be a bad guy. He doesn't even look like a bad guy when we saw that character motion poster. So that's been verified. He's a good guy, okay? And then, after the filming was done, after filming wrapped up, there was the set reports that were finally allowed to be revealed to the public. A lot of movie sites, entertainment websites were invited to watch the filming of Transformers last night, and they weren't allowed to say anything until a certain point in time when they were done filming. And one of the things that we learned in the set report was that Cogman is a headmaster. So that's new information. I mean, at the time, we learned that Cogman, at the very beginning, was an Aston Martin DB11 and that he's got an English accent. Now we learned that he's a headmaster. So the plot thickens. And to top things off, this just came out recently, and that is Michael Bay was doing an interview with Collider.com, and he was talking about the Transformers virtual reality experience. And then he mentioned this. Right, and we're doing it with Transformers. What sort of fun about that is the size? You've got little ones, and we got this great character called Cogman, who's a psychopath. He's a proper, like, butler. He's a headmaster, so it goes back to the comics. They kind of rip off heads, and they become that. So he's this proper, great-looking sociopath. He's a psycho, but he's very polite. And he's like this big, uses hands to show us the height, and it's cool just as a test. You see him riding in a car and behind you over here and it's so much fun. So we learned a lot of things. He's a psychopath. He's a butler. He's proper. He's a headmaster. They rip off heads and they become that. And like, I'm getting a little bit confused. There's so much going on with this character. Like, there's so many like character traits that I'm a little bit confused. And then we got to see a character that I believe is Cogman in trailer number 2. The most recent full-length theatrical trailer showed us what Cogman looks like, I believe. And that is this character right here. You see this character going like this when Cade Yeager falls out the window, and it's a human-sized transformer. And what's very interesting is that when you have a human-sized transformer, the best way to animate them is using mocap as a reference. After all, if it's a human size, then you can use a human in a suit, like a mocap suit, like an actor in a mocap suit. So that's exactly what they did. They got this actress right here, and she's wearing a mocap suit, and she shares a scene with Mark Wahlberg and Sir Anthony Hopkins, and it's a very calm and peaceful scene. It doesn't look like any aggression or threatening aspects are going on, so which shows that this character is a friendly. So Cogman is a good guy. And I'm just wondering why they decided to go with this shorter actress. I mean, that's a whole head shorter than Mark Wahlberg. I was just wondering, like, why didn't they get someone of the same height? That way they can use, like, he can perform with the same eye line. You know what I'm saying? Because it appears that Cogman is the same height as Gerard Carmichael. So I'm not sure why they decided to go with a shorter actress. But anyways, so they share scenes together. And what's very interesting, and I just noticed this recently, and after reading a YouTube comment, and that is Cogman does actually appear in a scene in America. And because, like, I'm looking at this shot right here where Izzy meets Bumblebee and Crosshairs, and this looks like America, unless this is the outskirts of the rural areas of England. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, in any case, we do see Cogman just right there. Like, he's right there. And he's walking away, and you barely even notice him, especially if you don't have that eye for detail, but he's right there. So, there's Cogman. Isn't that crazy? So, this is all getting to be a little bit confusing, because is Cogman the headmaster, or is Cogman the Aston Martin DB11? Now check this out. Here's what was tweeted by Michael Bay. This is what was mentioned. Your most loyal and deadly servant. So, butler, and I'm guessing butler or servant to Sir Anthony Hopkins' character, he's polite, but he's also deadly. So he's polite when he's when he's calm and peaceful and not in fighting mode, but when it's time to fight, oh man, this character is going to kick some serious butt. So I'm looking forward to what that character is going to bring to the table. Now here comes the big question. Is Cogman the headmaster or the Aston Martin DB11? The only evidence that we have of Cogman actually being the Aston Martin DB11 is only one thing. The plot leak. That's it. Besides that, there was no mention of Cogman actually being the Aston Martin DB11. And of course, the plot leak, or at least a lot of the details that were mentioned in the plot leak, was true. But at the end of the day, it's unofficial information. Now, we have read a lot of official information, and that is Cogman is the headmaster. And by headmaster, the actual head of the character that he's a part of. So Cogman, based on all these photos, or rather these screenshots here, is the actual headmaster. It's the humanoid-sized character. So when we see that character motion poster that was revealed a few days ago, or recently rather, that is a humanoid-sized transformer. Not a full-sized one, like the same size as Crosshairs and Bumblebee. This is a human-sized transformer, as we've already seen behind the scenes and on screen. So, there you have it. Now, if that's the case, who is the Aston Martin DB11? That is the big mystery, because Cogman is the head of the Aston Martin DB11. So who is the actual Aston Martin DB11? That's something we will find out later on. But all we know now is that Cogman is the actual head, and he's polite. He serves Sir Anthony Hopkins' character, but he's also deadly. And why am I holding up Kung Fu Karate Chops? Kung Fu and Karate Chops? I mean, Kung Fu Karate Anyways, whatever. So anyways, that's it for this episode. That's everything we know about Cogman. We will know more when as we get closer to the release of the film and during the release of the film, like when we actually watch it, then we'll learn everything we need to know. But for now, that is all we know. So from the very beginning to the most recent information, that is it about Cogman. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this episode. Let me know your thoughts and theories about Cogman, and if you know something I don't know, unless I've mentioned everything. But anyways, I'm excited to see Headmasters. It's exciting to know that they're not just resorting to robots and vehicle alt modes. They're actually taking really new concepts and that was taken from G1 and applying it into the live action films. And I'm really curious to see how that's going to work in live action. Anyways, that's all I got to say in this episode. The last thing I'm going to do is give shoutouts to my new followers on Twitter. If you are a recent follower of me on Twitter, welcome to the Ragin Nation. I would like to give you a random shout out. They go out to Gabe, as well as Bayman, Adam K, Martin Saki, Yaya, Finnish Freak Juso, Lynx, Calum, Jay Higgins, X Gold, Monarch AG, Film Fucci, Taylor Rhodes, and also Cartal. Thanks for joining the Ragin Nation. Thank you for joining the Road to TF5 movement. And look forward to more episodes from me, because there's a lot more to talk about as we approach and get closer to the release of Transformers Last Night. There's more and more information, and it's going to be really exciting to talk about it. Also, stay tuned for all those episodes. Anyways, that's all I got to say in this episode. Thank you for all your support. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace. And they ravage a whole lot of Cybertron. There's a lot of war. And they actually forced the Knights of Cybertron to carry out their sinister whims.